Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Want to know the key to a worry-free retirement? It's not how much money you have for the future, but rather knowing for certain how much you can spend in it.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
When it comes to this notion of creating a worry-free retirement, one of the discoveries I've made in working in this business for so long and in meeting with thousands of savers who are retired or nearing retirement is this. One of the most common mistakes a saver can make is not trying to time the stock market, nor locating and securing the highest paying investment, nor seeing how much money one can stockpile for the future, but rather the most common ingredient left off the retirement planning checklist is forgetting that cash flow is king. That's right, folks. When you boil it all down, retirement in its simplest form includes only one objective in being worry-free, and that is this: to be certain throughout retirement that there is always more money coming in the front door than there is heading out the back door. But Tony, you might be thinking, surely being worry-free in retirement is not as simple as this. Well, it is simple as long as you have a written game plan to follow. So let me explain. Well, welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, cash flow king specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And before we get started teaching you how to make sure that there's more money coming in the front door than heading out the back, let me introduce to you in the Worry-Free Studios this April 2nd, 2024, America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orender. Good morning, Aaron.
Hey, good morning, sir, and good morning, audience.
And it looks like we've got some treacherous weather coming our way, so it's nice to be inside and recording this show. So the idea here, remember, let's go back to the original theme. It's cash flow is king. And Aaron, if you kind of think about your own household budget, I know Jessica pretty much stays home full time with the kids, right? You're
That's
kind of
correct.
one income. Okay.
That's correct.
So I'd say this is a very important topic, isn't it? Making sure that as much money is coming in the front door is possibly heading out the back. Does this make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Anything you've had to adjust to? I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about inflation, but here we are in 2024. Anything the old Orender household has had to make some adjustments on?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say within the past year, of course, you've mentioned this in the past couple of episodes, but we've really cut back on our grocery spending. Jess kind of every couple of weeks will actually not go to the grocery store, and then she'll just kind of look in the pantry and see, like, okay, well, we've got this that we haven't used, we've got that. How about let's try to put something together. I'm very blessed in the sense that I have a wife that's a really good cook, and I know not everybody has that, so I understand. But Jess is really good at cooking, and she's put together some pretty interesting good meals.
Well, that's good. Yeah, that's impressive. Wait, and that is funny. We do that all the time. We'll go to the grocery and then we come home and you get ready to put it in the pantry. And it's like, wait a minute, I've already got six jars of mayonnaise.
Chestnuts. Oh, I've already got this. Yeah.
But that's interesting. So, folks, again, what we're talking about is this idea of cash flow. And particularly since this is a show dealing with retirement, this happens all the time. And I think this is why a lot of people, when they come to see me, especially those who haven't yet retired, Aaron, they're looking at me and without really saying this, here's really what they're saying. They're saying, Tony, how do I go from this paycheck that I've been getting all my life that the employer's taking care of, they withhold the taxes, I just make sure I don't spend more than's coming in the front door, that's easy. But how do I go from getting a paycheck to stopping work and recreating the paycheck? Can you see how that would be very frightening for a lot of people?
Right. How do I keep the cycle going with all these other things that are stopping? If you retire, your work, you're driving to work, all these little bitty things are just stopping.
That's right.
How do you keep these other things from not stopping?
Yeah, that's right. And one of the things that ain't going to stop, folks, is the taxes you're going to owe on that tax-infested 401k plan, which is where we come in. So the goal of a retirement planning specialist, a firm such as Tony Walker Financial, who's been doing this for years. By the way, this field has gotten real crowded with a lot of people with very little experience in retirement planning. So, folks, you got to be aware out there. There's nothing wrong with getting a second or even a third opinion before you go tossing all your money to one advisor. I met someone the other day that called in. I mean, this young lady was almost in tears. She had put almost all of her retirement in. She went from work, the paycheck, to an advisor. I don't know if she met him in a dinner seminar or whatever, but put almost all of her money into an annuity. She was not told that it was a 10-year annuity, meaning if she gets out of it, she's got a huge penalty for the next 10 years. And she's wanting my help. And I told her, I said, ma'am, I've got a few ideas in mind, but basically you're stuck in that annuity for at least another possibly 6 or 7 years until those surrender penalties start going down. So, folks, you got to be real careful when you take this leap of faith from stopping that paycheck at work to trusting someone that is going to deliver that paycheck in the future. And not only that, what we do at Tony Walker Financial, it's not just investing the money. That's like step one of several steps in retirement planning you're going to have to deal with. We're also there to figure out the tax withholdings. We're also going to link that back to your checking account. We're going to send you that paycheck once a month at the time of month you so desire, whether it's first of the month, middle of the month, end of the month, to coincide with Social Security, whatever. We're going to work around your schedule. We're going to make sure as best we can that there's always enough money coming in the front door as going out the back door. And Aaron, you know how many clients we have because you've been to our client events. I mean, with over 3,000 clients, would you say the majority of those people, you can just tell in the room, they're retired, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we know what we're doing in this area, folks. We're not newbies here. We're not sent off to, a lot of people are being sent off to these seminars and getting trained in retirement and coming back. And pretty scary stuff what's going on out there. So you got one shot to get this transition from getting a paycheck from work to trusting an advisor and a firm who knows how to keep that paycheck going for as long as you live. So when we come back, we're going to go into some interesting detail about this idea of why cash flow is king. And we're going to talk about two important things that are out there on the horizon that people used to bash, and now they're kind of rising up in terms of options for increasing cash flow. One is a reverse mortgage, and two is something called prepaid or pre-planned funerals. And I'm going to tell you the pros and cons to both when we come back. Some really good stuff coming your way. I'm Tony Walker along with Aaron Ornder. We will be right back. Did you realize that if you have more than $250,000 in retirement assets, the government could tax as much as 40% of it when you go to take it out? And with current tax rates set to expire in 2025, the taxes you will owe on your 401k could climb even higher. Don't wait until 2025 to see how much Uncle Sam will take of your money. Get a game plan by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no-obligation appointment. Let us help you today. With the uncertainty of the stock market, now may be the best time to consider moving your 401k to safer territory. To talk to me at no cost or obligation, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Worry-Free Retirement. I am America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Ornder. And Tony, before I get to the Tony in the trenches, it's funny, we were talking in the middle of the break there and talking about your client events, and I just had a funny thought pop in my head. I thought, talking about people not working and all that stuff, and I have yet to go to any client event and be talking with anyone and they say, well, we got to get out of here because we got to work at 6 a.m. or we got to get to work now, or anything like that. That just popped in my head. I thought that was funny. All right, on to the Tony in the trenches. This TNT comes to us from Richard over in LaRue County, who asks the following: Tony, I keep seeing ads on TV about something called a reverse mortgage. What is a reverse mortgage? Why would anyone do a reverse mortgage? And how do I know if I'm a good candidate for one?
Okay, now this is a great question. And actually, reverse mortgages have been around a long, long time. And I always tell people that they can possibly be a good resort, but believe me, they need to be a last resort. Folks, before I get into this a little bit, if you're just now joining us, the theme of our show is cash flow is king, and why retirement planning is really about cash flow, defined as make sure there's as much money coming in the front door as going out the back door. And again, when you were working, you had that paycheck provided by your employer. They did all the deductions for you. It dropped into your checking account bi-weekly, bi-monthly, once a month, whatever it was. And the goal was you just didn't spend as much as came in to the checking account. Pretty easy. Now, all of a sudden, you're retired, and these things are coming up like, wait a minute, I don't know if I have enough money, or, I'm afraid to spend my 401k. And you get questions like this from Richard, which are now, actually, I've got an article here, Aaron. You wouldn't have seen articles like this one. Listen to this article headline. Again, folks, as we record this show in April 2024, you would have never seen this headline on reverse mortgages 10 years ago. Here it goes. It says, this is from Investment News, by the way, the reverse mortgage seeks a home, listen, with affluent investors. It goes on to say reverse mortgage options are no longer a last resort, which I've always said that. Used strategically, they can be part of a financial planning in retirement, proponents say. So again, first of all, folks, I'm not telling you whether you should do a reverse mortgage or not. What I'm saying is that cash flow is king, and what's happening is, whether it's the effects of inflation, whether it's the effects, Aaron, do you realize the equity in homes have just kind of naturally gone up over the last several years? So a lot of people are sitting out here. I'll have people come into me and they'll go, yeah, I bought my home back in 1978 for $100,000. That thing's worth $400 now. They're on Zillow, and so it's a reality. People.
Yes, I can speak from personal experience. Jess and I have looked off and on for about a year into maybe possibly moving. Our house that we bought 8 years ago, 7 years ago, something like that. Kids are getting bigger. There's not as much room in the bedrooms anymore, and so we've thought about it. But right now it is not the time to buy.
So it's the same thing. So let's fast forward. Really what a reverse mortgage is, folks, is where you go to a lender and you literally, quote, borrow against your home. Let's use the example of the fellow that's got a $400,000 home. He's got all this equity. It's paid for. But cash flow is a problem. And maybe like Aaron, he's been out here and he's looking around, maybe wanting to move, downsize, but he's like, man, I can't do that because, sometimes these patio homes, Aaron, they're as expensive as the home you're in. And people think, well, I'm not going to pay that, and have HOA fees and all that. So some people are just trying to stay put. But again, with the effects of inflation, cash flow is starting to hurt a little bit. It is costing more at the grocery and to fill up the pump. So they go, wait a minute. We used to call this in the business. There's a great book on this. Misfortune 101. There you go. Misfortune 101, where a guy writes about this. And I love what he calls the equity in your home. He calls it a dead asset. And what he means by that, it's very accurate, actually. You've got all this equity, but it's not really working for you. Does that make sense,
Yeah,
Aaron?
it's just sitting there. It's
just
not doing
there.
anything.
And again, folks, I'm going to say this about 15 times throughout the show. Do not rush out and do a reverse mortgage. I'm just trying to tell you how they work and why all of a sudden more and more people are at least considering them, even, as this article says, affluent investors. So basically, you're going to the lender, you borrow the money out, but here's the catch, Aaron, you never pay it back. Does that make sense? Okay. So you don't have any out-of-pocket. But what happens there is they're charging you interest. It accrues on the back end. It reverses itself. So let's say you go and borrow $150,000 against your home. It's tax-free. You just throw it in the bank and live on it. You never pay it back. So on the surface, sounds good, right?
Sounds good, yeah.
But what happens is, let's say 7 or 8% is accruing. You finally pass away in 15 years. Your kids or whoever go to sell the house, and they go, wait a minute, there's a $300,000 mortgage on this thing. See what I mean? Yeah. I mean, I'm using rough numbers, but in theory, that's how they work. So that's why I say they're a last resort. But if somebody's living the live well, die broke, and they think, I'd rather get the money out of there, my kids are doing fine, I don't want to move, again, possibly, they could be a good resort. In fact, I wanted to write a little paper on this, so we did that. If you want to download a white paper I constructed just on the pros and cons of a reverse mortgage, kind of show you a few calculations that might help you think through it, you can download that white paper at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. TonyWalkerFinancial.com. You'll see it right there on the homepage. Just put download free reverse mortgage white paper. Okay, let's keep going here a minute, because the second thing I wanted to cover, again, not just about reverse mortgages for cash flow, but this was the opposite effect I had on recommending, Aaron, someone get a pre-planned or prepaid funeral. You've heard me talk about those, right?
Yes.
Now, again, folks, I'm not sitting here telling you to rush out and get a pre-planned or prepaid funeral. What I'm saying is to pre-plan your funeral, whatever that might look like. To pre-plan your funeral, I think, is a wonderful idea. I mean, why in the world would you want to croak and everybody has to show up at the funeral home and make all these decisions on whether you want to have a casket or cremated, and where's that going to take place, and where we're going to send the ashes? A fellow told me a story years ago. They snuck up to the bridge there at Cincinnati, and there's even a place that says no dumping of ashes. And they threw the ashes up. It's just like that movie. The ashes went flying back in the wind.
Nice.
What is that movie that we've...
The Big Lebowski.
The Big Lebowski. True story. It actually happened to him. He said, man, we're probably going to get arrested. We got ashes all over us.
Covered in ashes.
Yeah.
All right, let's go get breakfast and walk into a restaurant.
Good night, sweet prince.
So, but what happened here, talking about a cash flow nightmare, one of our clients called us the other day, and they're almost infuriated at me, Aaron. They said... Well, they're telling Trey, they said, we'd heard Tony talk about a pre-planned or prepaid funeral, okay? And I encourage you to go to the funeral homes and talk to them. Well, what happened, Aaron? She said, before I knew it, I'd picked out everything, which was fine. I'd signed a document to prepay it, and I looked down after I signed everything and we got to discussing it. I'd already signed it. It was $300, I think, and $30 a month she was going to pay on this prepaid funeral for 10 years. So that's well over $30,000.
Yeah, I think you're in the $40,000 range there.
Crazy.
It's insane.
And she told Trey, she said, well, I guess I'm going to have to keep working part-time. She's single. She's working part-time. She said, I guess I'm going to have to keep working part-time just to pay for the paid funeral. Folks, that's not what I'm talking about.
Talk about working yourself to death.
Anyway, so yeah, I mean, that is a good one, Aaron. But here's the point, folks. That affected her cash flow. So what happens as you move through retirement, and this is why you need a retirement planning firm that specializes in this stuff, like us at Tony Walker Financial. We are constantly trying to help you think through financial decisions that could negatively impact your cash flow. Because if all of a sudden you have more money going out the back door than coming in the front door, well, obviously, you're going to eventually have a problem. So what are some things that affect cash flow that we at Tony Walker Financial help our clients with all the time? Well, the first thing we can do is help minimize your taxes, especially on that darn 401k or tax-infested IRA plan. As I meet with 30 to 40 people each week, most of the newcomers that come here and want a second opinion from me, the majority of them have no game plan and they have no strategy in place to try to minimize the taxes that will be owed. Listen, folks, it's a given. You're going to pay taxes on that 401k or IRA. The problem is, as we record this show in 2024, we know the tax laws expire in 2025. There's a very good likelihood that those taxes will go up. So my question to you is, what is your plan for saving on taxes? Which if we do that, that means less going out the back door, more coming in the front door. The next issue we deal with a lot, the biggest, I guess I would say one of my concerns for people, Aaron, that are with money managers or a lot of times stockbrokers who aren't fiduciaries, they are not required to disclose their fees. So what happens is the client's sitting there, they show me these statements, I'm trying to figure out the fees, and I'm thinking, what are you even paying this advisor? And they'll say, I don't know. And I say, well, that's a problem. Because if you're paying this advisor, let's say $8,000 a year to manage this account, and let's say through our Charles Schwab platform at 0.8%, we can reduce your fees in half and save you $4,000 a year, Aaron. What did we just did? We just increased the amount of money coming in the
back or front door.
Front door, good,
door.
Front door, and less going out the back door. So there's an excellent way to provide more money coming in the front door, just the reduction in fees. The next way we provide more money coming in the front door, now this isn't always a given, but if we have a major downturn in the market, and we're going to talk about a case study in our last segment, and if you are retired, we are going to make sure that you get that risk minimized. Folks, many of you have got way too much money in the stock market. This is assuming you're a saver, not an investor and speculator. Again, this show's for savers. But folks, as we always say, what got you there may not keep you there. If you are retired or nearing retirement and you still have all your money in the market, You're setting yourself up for failure. And we're going to be able to show you through our written game plan, through our proprietary planning process, how you can accomplish your goals and objectives with a whole lot less risk and keep money coming in the front door for the rest of your life. That's right, folks. It's something we call mailbox money. So how does all this work? Well, we're going to come back. And by the way, this is an election year. I'm going to talk about the election year syndrome and what happens with the market during election years. But we're going to talk about a 62-year-old couple. Very interesting case I had last week. And they are very, very worried about the future and whether they're going to be able to retire in an uncertain world that we live in today, and how our split IRA and our process at Tony Walker Financial we call the worry-free retirement came to the rescue. I am Tony Walker along with Aaron Orander, and we will be right back.
Our employee spotlight shines brightly today on my favorite nephew and fellow fiduciary, Wes Walker. How you doing, Wes?
Good, Tony. How are you today?
Doing great. Tell us again how long you've been with Tony Walker Financial now.
I started in January of 2020.
And tell the folks a little bit about your duties here.
So kind of a bit of what I do is I look a lot at different portfolios that people have, as well as the portfolios that we manage in-house. And then along with that, act as a full-time fiduciary and financial advisor in mainly the Louisville and Lexington offices.
And we always like to make sure our clients out there know how much we enjoy our work here. What is the one thing you would say about your work and Tony Walker Financial that you enjoy the most, Wes?
Yeah, kind of my favorite thing or my most enjoyable part about working at Tony Walker Financial is helping people get a better gauge on their risk tolerance. So just a quick example, let's say somebody had $1 million that they were moving over, and at the time they had 70% in the stock market. Well, that's $700,000. In like a 2008 scenario, the market was down 50%. So in that example, they could lose $350,000 just like that. So to try and head that off of the past, show them what they have and what could be a better alternative is really my favorite part about what I do.
Well, thank you, Wes, for all you do for our clients and, of course, your contributions to Tony Walker Financial.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. Tony Walker here. And as we record this show at the 1st of April, 2024, one of the most common questions I'm getting right now is this. Tony, with this being an election year, do you think the stock market will go up or down? Well, according to a little graphic I saw the other day, it's pretty interesting on the historical returns of the stock market during election years. Here's my padded answer. Let's turn to the late, great Dick Walker for help on this one.
Who knows?
All right, so let's take a look at this graph, and I know through the magic of radio you can't see it, so I'm going to make it come alive. And we decided to only go back to 1996, okay? That was an election year. Obviously, we'll look at 96, 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012, 2016, 2020, and of course, we don't know what's going to happen in just a few months in 2024. So back in 1996, all right? Aaron, you want to guess? Of course, it's hard to say what was even going on back then. Bill Clinton was president, a Democrat was president. What do you think the market did in 1996? First of all, you think it went up or down? I mean, remember, that was the big tech era. Remember all the...
Yeah.
You've got mail.
That's the year I turned 16. I got my license. I'm just trying to remember. I don't remember any major catastrophes on the news or anything. I would say it probably went up a little bit.
It did. Good guess. It went up 20%. And that was called the go-go 90s. I was managing money back then. And you could throw a dart at a dartboard and pick stocks that were making tons of money. Actually, Clinton, I think, did a pretty good job as president back then. He kept the ship going, and he had really a good relationship with Congress. I think it was Republican-led Congress and Senate. But anyway, I thought they all worked together pretty well considering what's going on now. So 20% return. Fast forward to 2000. Now, 2000 got into some tumultuous years. The tech bubble kind of crashed. We were right before 9/11. Election year in 2000, you'd have to guess it probably went what?
Yeah, it probably went down. I remember the Y2K scare and all that stuff.
That was crazy. Yeah, 10% decrease.
Despite a smooth rollover into year 2000, Y2K experts say we're not out of the woods just yet.
So in 2004, and a Republican won the election, it went up 9%. 2008, a Democrat was in office. Don't really want to blame the Democrats on this necessarily, but a Democrat was in office. Folks, y'all remember 08. That's when everything crashed down 38%. Now, what we're saying is, who knows whether this was really caused by the presidential election, but this is what happened, okay? 2012, a Democrat was in office, it went up 13%. 2016, a Republican was in office, went up 9.5%. And in 2020, Democrat was in office, that's when Mr. Biden took over, up 16%. But does that really tell you anything, Aaron?
Not much.
Let's kind of summarize this. This is pretty interesting. Republican elected, the range, this is since they've been measuring this goes way back in time, has gone anywhere down from 10% to up 37%. So on average, when a Republican is elected, again, folks, don't run out and bet all your money on this, but the market is up 11%. When a Democrat is elected, down 38% was the maximum. That was 08. Up as high as 27, but the average is only 4.3. Okay? But then following that year, actually, the next year, the Democrat-led or Democrat-elected officials, the market goes back up. So again, you look at this and you think, well, I mean, I guess this year, who thinks is going to win? There's a lot of betting going on there. There's a lot of speculation. What I would say is it goes back again. Unfortunately, my crystal ball's on the blink right now. I would say, who knows? Which leads, real quickly, we'll conclude with this case study. A couple came into me. They're both 62, wanting to retire, and this very topic came up. And we kind of talked about all this stuff, and they're like, I agree, Tony. Who knows and who cares? Why in the world, folks, would we be having this discussion if you're a saver getting ready to retire? To me, what we just discovered here is it's very volatile. It's very uncertain. The market can crash at any time, no matter who's in office. So why would you expose yourself at this stage of your life to all of this risk? It's totally unnecessary if you're a saver. So this couple was 62. His wife went on and retired, Aaron. She had about $200,000 in her 401k. He had well over $1 million. But he was so worried about the market. See, his account is way up right now, and he wants to retire in about 2 years. He came to me and he said, Tony, I've heard you talk on TV, heard the radio show. If you can put this stuff in safer territory, I just need to know, can I retire? And really what he was saying is cash flow is king.
Right.
So, and I told him that. I said, sir, all we got to make sure is in retirement, and I'll work with you on this. I got to make it, I do a thorough analysis with everybody I meet. I said, all we got to do, keep this money safe. We can risk a little bit of it, but let's keep most of it safe. Let's make sure we have as much money coming in the front door as going out the back door. And he said, explain. So I took all of his information. This is what I do every day, folks. And this is, by the way, if you're a saver, if you're retired or nearing retirement, this is a free service. I'll take all of your information. I'll personally review it. I've been doing this nearly 40 years. I've met in person with over 15,000 savers. I know what I'm doing in this area, folks. I'm going to review all that information. I'm going to personally design the game plan. I'm going to turn that over to our full-time income planning department. I mean, folks, we've got 19 full-time employees helping provide the services of Tony Walker Financial to our clients. I'm going to come back. I'm going to present that plan, our proprietary written game plan at no cost or obligation, and you will, at that point, understand what we're talking about when I say cash flow is king. So that's you right now. If you're sitting there and you've got a decent sum of money, you've got a 401k, IRA, retirement plan, deciding on pensions, whatever it is, if it involves retirement planning, folks, we are here to help. My name is Tony Walker. I've been doing this nearly 40 years. I've worked on over 5,000 written game plans. We have over 3,000 saver clients. We'd like to talk to you about our services. And best of all, we can do that absolutely free. We call it the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. And to take advantage of talking to the owner of the company, all you got to do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Just click on that little Let's Get Started button. Even if it's over the weekend, we will be in touch with you first thing Monday morning. Or if the internet's not your thing, just give us a call toll free at any time. We have live operators even on the weekends that can take your call. The number is 877-499-9255. That's 877-499-WALK. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's program. Next week, we're actually going to take this one step further and go to Cash Flow is King Part 2 with more examples of how to increase your cash flow to a worry-free retirement. I'm Tony Walker. We'll see you next week on the Worry Free Retirement. And you remember, between now and then, you make it a good day.